Okay, so we've said that GDP shows the value of kind of income, and it's the value of income and output in an economy. So why does that matter? Why does it matter if there's growth or not, if income and output is rising? And we can say that it matters to kind of four different groups. Firstly, it matters to the government. And it matters really for two reasons to the government. Firstly is just a kind of political reason, which is that generally, if there's more income and output, what that will tend to mean is that there are more jobs. More jobs means that there is therefore a decrease in unemployment. So lots of people have jobs, they're earning incomes, therefore they're happy, therefore they're more likely to vote for the government of the day. I can't remember who said it once. It's the economy, stupid. Was kind of an explanation of kind of why the government of the day was winning votes or losing votes. But secondly, perhaps more importantly, the level of GDP determines the state of the government's finances. What we call the government's budget position. The government can only, well, that's not really true, but the government's ability to spend, to some extent, is constrained by the amount of tax revenue that it gets. And when GDP is rising, the government's finances tend to improve. High GDP, as we said, means more jobs. So therefore, an increase in GDP means more people are paying tax. They're paying taxes on their income. Income tax, they're paying taxes on their spending, VAT. Companies make more profits and they pay tax on their profits. But also, if there are more jobs, we said that an increase in GDP means more jobs. What that tends to mean is that therefore there will be a decrease in benefit spending. So when people are unemployed, the government pays benefits, pays unemployment benefit, pays income support, and so on. When more people have jobs, there's less spending there. Therefore, the government has more money available to be able to use to provide things like the health service, better education, better infrastructure, and so on. So rising GDP improves government finances. The government can then do things with the income that it gets. Secondly, if GDP is rising, then we'd say it's good for businesses. When GDP is rising, we said that means, generally speaking, an increase in GDP means more demand for businesses. Therefore, that means that they got more profits. And because they got more profits, it varies by business, they can just pay it to shareholders, they can pay it to their owners, or they can invest that into innovations. And you look at the history of the last 100 years, it's obviously the case that a lot of there's been a huge amount of technological change in smartphones, in kind of social media, in TV, broadband, and so on and so forth. Most of that's come about from the reinvestment of profits. Some of it's come from support from governments for innovation through universities and so on. But all of that has come from the income generated from rising GDP. Thirdly, from the point of view of the workforce. And GDP matters because I can only pay you, as a business, I can only pay workers according to the value of output that they produce. So if workers are becoming more productive and generating higher levels of income per person, then they can be paid higher salaries. Incomes today are far higher than they were 100 years ago, and that's because a combination of factors means that each worker is generating a far higher level of GDP than we were 100 years ago. So what that's going to tend to mean is an increase in income for you as a worker. And again, if this growth is coming from workers being more efficient and effective, it means that we can do more in less time. And you look at the length of the working week, that's come down a lot over the last 100, 150 years. So if you looked kind of in the 1830s, the average working week was about 60 hours. So 12 hours a day for 5 days, or 10 hours a day for 6 days. Today, it's more like about 35, 40 hours. And finally, perhaps most importantly, the fourth beneficiaries of economic growth are you and me. What economists call households, but that just means people. Obviously, we said that an increase in GDP means that you got more income, but it also means that, as we said, the government had a higher tax base. So therefore you got better health and education. So a high level of tax base for the government has allowed the NHS to be provided. Innovations, technology, have provided again better healthcare and better leisure activities. You look at the average life expectancy in the late 19th century, you're looking at sort of 40, 45. Whereas today, it's more like about 80. So GDP rising, is very important. It's important for politicians because, as you can see, it's going to win them lots of votes. But it's also important for quality of life. And that's not to say, that GDP is kind of universally a good thing. Obviously, rapidly rising GDP, has used up the planet's resources, and if the economy grows too fast, then that in itself can create difficulties. What it can mean is, if we go back to our beer and glass model, if the beer, if the level of demand and growth in the economy is getting too fast, then what happens is that the beer kind of spills over the top of the glass. What that means is there's too much demand inside the economy, for businesses to make, and what that can do is it can lead to imports. So it can mean that demand goes abroad, but it can also mean that you start to get rising prices. That businesses find it easier to put up prices, which can create inflation. Which is a problem that we'll talk about in another one of these.